The great station hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. Apex Prime was the pride of the Galactic Council, a place where hundreds of species came together to discuss the future of the galaxy. Today, that future did not include humans. Captain One stood in the observation gallery, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the council chamber below. He wore his Earth Defense Fleet uniform with pride, even though he knew what was coming. The gallery was packed with representatives from dozens of worlds, all waiting to see humanity judged. The council speaker, a tall being covered in blue scales, raised one of its four arms. The chamber fell silent. One felt his heart pound in his chest. "We gather today to address the human question," the speaker announced. Its voice echoed through the massive chamber. "For 50 years, humanity has been part of our galactic community. In that time, they have brought both innovation and concern." One watched as holographic displays lit up around the chamber. They showed human colonies, human ships, human soldiers. Some images showed humans helping rebuild worlds after natural disasters. Others showed human warships patrolling dangerous sectors of space. A delegate stepped forward. The insect-like being clicked its mandibles together before speaking. "Humanity is too aggressive, too quick to violence. They solve every problem with weapons and threats." "That's not true," one whispered to himself, but no one could hear him from the gallery. Another delegate spoke, this one from the crystalline species. Its body sparkled like diamond as it moved. "Humans are unpredictable. They do not follow proper protocols. They act on emotion rather than logic. This makes them dangerous." More voices joined in. The aquatic spoke of human expansion into too many systems. The vapor-based complained about human industrial methods. One by one, species that humanity had traded with, protected, and helped now spoke against them. One wanted to shout at them. He wanted to remind them of the pirates that human ships had driven from the trade routes. He wanted to show them the relief supplies humans had delivered to dying colonies. He wanted them to remember the human doctors who had found cures for alien diseases. But he remained silent. This was not a trial where evidence mattered. This was politics. The vote came quickly. Species after species activated their voting crystals. Red lights filled the chamber like drops of blood in water. When the count finished, the result was clear. Humanity was being expelled from the Galactic Council. "By the authority granted to us," the speaker declared, "we hereby order humanity to withdraw from all territories outside their home system. You have 30 standard cycles to complete this evacuation. After that time, any human presence beyond the Sol system will be considered an act of war." One closed his eyes. 30 cycles, just over one Earth month. How could they evacuate millions of people in that time? The transmission reached Admiral 3 hours later. She stood on the command deck of Earth's orbital station, watching the planet slowly turn beneath her. The blue and green world had never looked more beautiful or more lonely. "They actually did it," said Commander standing beside her. "They're throwing us out." Nodded slowly. She had prepared for this possibility, but hopping something won't happen and actually facing it are two different things. She activated the station's communication system. "All fleet commanders, all colony governors, all station directors," she began. Her voice was steady and strong. "You have all received the Council's decision by now. I want you to know that we will comply with their demands, but we will do so with dignity." She paused, gathering her thoughts. Around her, the command crew watched their admiral with worry in their eyes. "We built homes on dozens of worlds. We created communities, raised families, and lived our dreams among the stars. Now we must leave all of that behind. But we are human. We have faced worse and survived. We will face this and survive too." On the colony world of New Sol, received the Admiral's message in her office. She looked out the window at the city she had helped build. Towers of steel and glass reached toward the purple sky. Parks filled with earth plants and alien flowers dotted the landscape. Children played in the streets, human and alien together. Now she had to tell them all to leave. Activated the colony-wide broadcast. Attention all residents. By order of the Galactic Council, we must evacuate New Sol within 30 days. I know this is shocking. I know many of you were born here and know no other home, but we have no choice. The streets below filled with people. Humans emerged from buildings, looking up at the speaker's broadcasting's voice. Some cried, some looked angry, some just stood in stunned silence. We will begin evacuation procedures immediately, continued. Priority will be given to families with children, the elderly, and those with medical needs. Everyone will get off this world safely. I promise you that. In his laboratory on the research station orbiting a distant star, Dr. Minu stared at 20 years of work. Samples of alien plants, data on how to grow food in different atmospheres, medical research that could save millions of lives. The Council's message was clear. All research materials must be surrendered. They did not trust humans to keep this knowledge. Minu looked at his assistant, a young researcher named. Download everything to the encrypted drives, he said quietly. Everything we can fit. But the Council began. The Council is making a mistake, Minu interrupted. They're letting fear cloud their judgment. Someday they might need this research, but if they want to treat us like criminals, they don't deserve our life's work. He began erasing files from the main computer. If the Council wanted his research, they would find nothing but empty storage. Across human space, the evacuation began. Ships that had been cargo haulers became refugee transports. Military vessels escorted convoys of civilians heading back to Sol. Families packed what they could carry and left behind everything else. On New Sol, watched as the first transport ships lifted off. Each one carried 1,000 people back to Earth. They would need hundreds of flights to evacuate everyone. A merchant approached her as she supervised the loading. I am sorry, the alien said, its mandibles clicking softly. Your people did not deserve this. Then why didn't your people vote against it? Asked. The looked away. Fear makes people do foolish things. The Council fears what they do not understand, and they have never understood humans. The evacuation took every day of the 30 cycles the Council had given them. Ships moved constantly between the colonies and Sol, carrying millions of people home. Some humans chose to remain in the galaxy illegally, hiding among alien populations. But most returned to Earth, Mars, and the stations of their home system. On the final day, Captain One commanded the last human ship to leave Council space. He stood on the bridge of his cruiser, watching the stars through the viewport. Behind them, the galaxy they had explored and loved continued without them. Set course for Earth, he ordered. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, One made a silent promise. Humanity had been cast out, called too dangerous for galactic society. Fine, they would leave, but they would not forget, and they would not forgive. Someday, he thought, the galaxy might regret this decision. The last human ship left Council space, and the gate behind them closed. Humanity was alone once more, pushed back to the single solar system where they had been born. The galaxy breathed a sigh of relief. But in the darkness between the stars, something else was watching, something that had noticed the galaxy's weakness, something that was getting ready to move. The Council had removed their strongest defenders, and did not even know it yet. 5 years had passed since humanity returned to the Sol system. 5 years since they had been cast out by the species they once called allies. The Earth that welcomed them back was different now, stronger, more united, and far more dangerous than the galaxy imagined. Admiral stood at the observation window of the new defense station orbiting Earth. Below her, the planet turned peacefully, but around it, a network of weapons platforms floated in careful patterns. Thousands of automated defense satellites watched every approach to the inner system. Anyone trying to reach Earth uninvited would face a wall of fire. "The final weapon platforms are online," reported Commander. "The entire system is now protected." Nodded, and the stealth field. "Active, long-range scans won't be able to find us. As far as the galaxy knows, the Sol system is empty and dead." It had been S's idea to make Earth invisible. If the galaxy wanted them gone, then they would truly disappear. Human ships had installed signal dampeners and sensor screens throughout the system. To any alien scanning from outside, Sol would look like nothing more than an ordinary star with lifeless planets. But behind that curtain of invisibility, humanity was changing. Engineer Yang worked in his laboratory on Mars, surrounded by pieces of alien technology. When humanity evacuated the colonies, they had brought back every piece of advanced equipment they could carry. Now, without the Council's rules limiting what they could study, Yang and his team were free to improve everything. "The new power cores are 40% more efficient than the alien designs," Yang explained to his team. "We took their technology and made it better." A young engineer named examined a holographic display. "We've also improved their weapon systems. The plasma cannons now have twice the range and 3 times the damage output." Yang smiled. The Council had always been afraid of human innovation. They had passed laws limiting what humans could research, worried that humanity would become too powerful. Now, without those limits, humans were discovering just how much they had been held back. "What about the new ship designs?" Yang asked. "The prototypes are ready for testing," replied. "They're faster than anything the Council has, and with our new stealth technology, they'll be practically invisible." On Mars itself, Governor walked through the new city of New Pyongyang. The underground city had been expanded massively in 5 years. Millions of returned colonists now called Mars home, and they had brought their dreams with them. The streets were clean and organized. Buildings combined the best of human architectural styles with lessons learned from alien worlds. Parks under massive domes let children play under artificial sunlight. It was beautiful, but knew it was also a fortress. "Governor, the new manufacturing centers are operating at full capacity," said her assistant. "We're producing everything we need. Ships, weapons, supplies. We don't need the Council for anything anymore." Nodded as she watched children play in a park. Some of them had been born on alien worlds and barely remembered Earth. Now they were growing up in a humanity that had learned a hard lesson about trusting others. "Are the schools teaching them properly?" asked. "Yes, they learn about the galaxy, about the species that live there, and about what happened to us. We make sure they understand that we cannot trust aliens to be fair." It saddened that children had to learn such lessons, but she also knew it was necessary. Humanity had been too trusting before, too willing to believe that being friendly would be enough. Now they knew better. In a medical research facility on Europa, Dr. Minyu studied samples under a microscope. He had brought his research back from the colonies, hidden from the Council's eyes. Now he was using that knowledge to push human medicine forward. "We've cured 17 diseases that used to be fatal," he told his colleague, Dr. Sora. "By combining human medical knowledge with what we learned from alien biology, we're making breakthroughs every month." "The life extension treatments are working too," Sora added. "Humans might soon live twice as long as we used to." Minyu leaned back in his chair. "The Council wanted to keep us weak. They shared some technology but held back the important discoveries. They didn't want humanity to become too advanced." "Well, they're not holding us back anymore," Sora said with a smile. But not everyone was focused only on technology and defense. In the underground farms of Mars, farmers worked to feed the billions of humans now living in the Sol system. In the schools, teachers educated a new generation. In the arts centers, musicians and artists created works that expressed humanity's pain, anger, and hope. Humanity was not just surviving, they were thriving. Admiral's daughter was now 18 years old. She had been 13 when humanity was exiled, old enough to remember the beautiful alien cities they had to leave behind. Now she trained as a tactical officer in the Earth Defense Fleet. "The exercise is beginning," announced her instructor. "Show me what you've learned." Sat at a tactical console with a dozen other cadets. The simulation showed enemy ships approaching Earth. They had to coordinate the defense. While the other cadets followed standard defensive patterns, did something different. She sent ships on unexpected paths, used the asteroid belt as cover, and attacked from angles the enemy didn't anticipate. "Cadet, what are you doing?" the instructor demanded. "That's not in the standard defensive manual." "The standard manual is predictable," replied calmly. "If we only do what's expected, we'll lose." Her unorthodox tactics worked. In the simulation, her team destroyed the enemy with minimal losses. The instructor frowned but couldn't argue with results. Represented a new generation of humans. They had never met an alien personally. They knew the galaxy only through history lessons and their parents' stories. To them, aliens were not friends or trading partners. They were the species that had betrayed humanity. This generation would not make the same mistakes their parents did. Captain 1 commanded the stealth reconnaissance fleet. These special ships used the new technology Yang had developed to slip into Council space undetected. Their mission was simple: watch and listen. From the shadows, one and his ships monitored galactic affairs. They recorded communications, observed fleet movements, and gathered intelligence. What they saw worried them. "The and are in a trade dispute," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Bora. "It's getting heated. In the past, human merchants would have mediated." One studied the reports. "Without us, they have no neutral party to settle disputes. Let them fight it out." "Sir, there's also increased piracy in the outer sectors. Without our patrol ships, the trade routes are vulnerable." "Not our problem anymore," one said, but his voice was troubled. He took no pleasure in seeing the galaxy struggle, but humanity had offered to help protect Council space, and they had been rejected. The Council had called humans too aggressive, too violent. Now they were learning what real violence looked like without humanity to keep the peace. More reports came in over the following months. Minor conflicts between species escalated. Pirates attacked shipping lanes freely. Some remote colonies suffered without the supplies that human traders used to deliver. One sent all these reports back to Admiral. She needed to see what was happening to the galaxy that had cast them out. In her office on the Earth Defense Station, read through one's intelligence reports. The galaxy was becoming less stable. Part of her felt satisfied seeing the Council struggle, but another part of her worried. "They're making mistakes," she told Commander. "The Council focused so much on diplomacy and rules that they forgot how to deal with real problems." "Should we care?" asked. "They didn't care when they threw us out." Didn't answer immediately. She looked at Earth through her window, thinking about the 5 billion humans living in the Sol system, safe behind their defenses, growing stronger every day. "For now, we focus on ourselves," she finally said. "Let the galaxy solve its own problems." Years passed, and humanity continued to advance. Their ships became faster and more powerful. Their weapons surpassed anything the Council possessed. Their defenses made the Sol system nearly impregnable. Engineer Yang developed new types of energy shields. Dr. Minu extended human and eliminated diseases. Governor built thriving cities on Mars, Europa, and Titan. The entire Sol system became a showcase of what humanity could achieve when not held back by Council restrictions. But they also remained hidden. The stealth field stayed active. The defense platform stayed ready. Humanity remembered what it felt like to be cast out, and they would never be that vulnerable again. Captain 1 continued to watch the galaxy from the shadows. His reports showed more problems emerging. Trade was declining. Conflicts were increasing. Some species that had voted to expel humanity were now struggling without human help. "Do you ever wonder if they regret it?" asked Lieutenant Bora one day. "Voting us out." One stared at the stars on his. "Probably, but regret doesn't fix anything. They made their choice. We made ours." Unknown to one or anyone else in humanity, something else was happening on the far edge of the galaxy. In a region of space the Council had never explored, a fleet was preparing to move. A species the Council had never met was getting ready to invade. And the galaxy, weakened by internal conflicts and missing its most capable defenders, would not be ready for what was coming. Humanity remained in their solar system, watching and waiting. They had been cast out and called too dangerous. Now they were becoming exactly what the Council feared: strong, united, and ready for war. But the war they were preparing for was not against the Council. It was against anyone who might threaten humanity again. They would never be exiled again. They would never be helpless again. In the Sol system, behind their walls of invisibility and weapons, humanity grew stronger with each passing day. They didn't know that soon, very soon, the galaxy would need them again. And when that time came, humanity would have a choice to make. The scout ship Harmony's wing had been on patrol for 3 standard weeks. It was a routine mission along the galactic rim, checking on remote colonies and scanning for asteroids that might threaten shipping lanes. Captain, the ship's commander, expected nothing unusual. That expectation died when the sensors went wild. "Unknown contacts," announced the sensor operator, clicking its mandibles in confusion. "Multiple ships, configurations not in any database." Move to the tactical display. 12 ships surrounded them, appearing from nowhere. They were dark and angular, covered in what looked like black metal. No running lights. No identification signals, just silent and menacing. "Try to hail them," ordered. The communications officer sent standard greetings in 15 different languages. There was no response. The unknown ships began moving closer. "They're powering weapons," the tactical officer warned. "Shields up, send a distress signal," commanded. The distress signal got halfway to the nearest Council station before the Harmony's wing exploded. The unknown ships didn't stop to examine the wreckage. They simply continued forward, moving deeper into Council space. 2 days later, another ship disappeared. Then 3 more. The Council tried to send investigation teams, but they found nothing. No wreckage, no survivors, just empty space where ships used to be. On Apex Prime Station, the Council convened an emergency session. The chamber that had once voted to expel humanity now buzzed with worried conversation. "We're facing an unknown threat," announced the speaker. 7 ships have vanished in the past week, all in the same sector. A counselor rose, its crystalline body reflecting the chamber's lights. "Perhaps it's pirates. We should send more patrol ships." "Pirates don't make ships disappear without a trace," countered a delegate. "This is something else." Counselor of the spoke next. His voice was grave. "We should send a full battle group to investigate. Whatever this is, we need to face it with strength." The Council agreed. A fleet of 20 warships, the largest Council military force assembled in decades, jumped to the sector where the ships had vanished. They found the enemy waiting for them. The battle was brief and brutal. The unknown ships, which Council forces would later learn belonged to a species called the, tore through the Council fleet with terrifying efficiency. Their weapons were more powerful than anything the Council had. Their shields absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. Their tactics showed no mercy and no hesitation. Of the 20 ships sent to investigate, only 2 escaped to report what they had seen. "They came from nowhere," the surviving captain told the Council. "Our weapons barely scratched them. They destroyed ships like we were made of paper. The report sent shock waves through the council. For the first time in centuries, they faced an enemy they couldn't negotiate with, an enemy that wanted only to destroy. The invasion had begun. Captain One watched from the shadows as the council fleet fought its first real battle against the. His stealth ship sensors recorded everything while remaining undetected. "They're getting slaughtered," Lieutenant Bora said quietly. One nodded grimly. The council's battle tactics were old and predictable. They relied on heavy shields and long-range bombardments. They simply adapted and overwhelmed them with speed and firepower. "Send this data back to Admiral," One ordered. "She needs to see this." "Sir, shouldn't we help them?" Bora asked. "We have our orders. Observe only. The council made it clear they don't want our help." One watched as another council ship exploded. Part of him wanted to intervene. Human ships could have made a difference in this battle, but humanity had been cast out. The council said they were too dangerous. Let them face real danger now. They continued their advance. They moved from system to system, destroying everything in their path. Colonies burned. Civilian ships were destroyed without warning. Entire planets were bombarded until nothing lived on them. The always so proud of their advanced technology watched in horror as 3 of their core worlds fell to attacks. Their crystalline cities shattered under bombardment. Billions died. They retreated to their ocean worlds, hoping they wouldn't follow, but they had weapons that could boil oceans. The safe havens became death traps. Species that had lived in peace for centuries now faced extinction, and the council had no answer for the threat. In the council chambers, the debates grew desperate. "We need to adapt our tactics," Counselor insisted. "Our current strategies are not working." "We've always relied on diplomacy and measured responses," the counselor argued. "Violence should be our last option." "It is our last option now," shouted, "and we're losing." The arguments went in circles. The council had spent so long avoiding conflict that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Their military was designed for patrol duties and showing the flag, not for facing an enemy that wanted to exterminate them. Meanwhile, they pushed deeper into council space. They attacked faster than the council could respond. Refugee ships fled toward the core worlds, carrying survivors with stories of horror. On one refugee vessel, a young child asked her mother, "Where are the humans? Why don't they help us?" The mother had no answer. She had voted to expel humanity 15 years ago, thinking them too violent for civilized society. Now she wished more than anything that those violent humans were here. The invasion continued for months. They seemed unstoppable. They didn't negotiate. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't want territory. They simply destroyed everything they found and moved forward. Council military strategists tried everything they could think of. Ambush tactics failed. Defensive lines were broken. Even retreating was difficult because they were faster. "We're fighting like politicians," one frustrated military commander told Counselor. "We need to fight like warriors. We need the kind of tactics the humans used." His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The humans, the species they had called too aggressive and too unpredictable, the species they had feared would drag the council into wars. Now the council was in a war they couldn't win, and the humans were gone. In his reconnaissance ship, Captain One continued to monitor the situation. His reports to Admiral grew more detailed as the threat became clearer. "They're a civilization based entirely on conquest," One reported. "They don't want to coexist. They want to consume. Every world they take is stripped of resources and left dead." "How long until they reach the core worlds?" asked. "At their current pace, 6 months, maybe less." Was quiet for a moment, and after the core worlds. "They'll keep going until they run out of targets. Eventually, they'll reach the Sol system." That was the nightmare scenario. They weren't just a threat to the council. They were a threat to everyone, including humanity. If the council fell, they would eventually come for Earth. But kept these thoughts to herself. For now, humanity's orders remained clear: watch and wait. The council's situation grew worse. They lost battle after battle. Millions became refugees. Entire species teetered on the edge of extinction. Finally, in desperation, Counselor made a decision he never thought he would make. Working in secret with a small group of other counselors, he prepared a message. It was encrypted and sent through back channels, transmitted toward the Sol system that the Council had not contacted in 15 years. The message was simple: we were wrong, we need help. Ambassador of the was chosen to deliver the official plea. She had voted against humanity in the exile vote, believing them too dangerous. Now she understood the truth. Humanity had never been the danger. Fear and prejudice were the danger. She recorded her message in a small, private chamber. Her crystalline body dimmed with shame as she spoke. People of humanity, this is Ambassador of the species. 15 years ago, I voted to expel you from the Council. I believed you were too violent, too unpredictable. I was wrong. She paused, gathering her courage to continue. A species called thee is destroying the galaxy. They are everything we feared you might become, but they are real and you never were. Billions are dead. Entire species face extinction. Our military cannot stop them. Our strategies do not work. Her voice broke slightly. We cast you out because we feared your strength. Now we beg you to use that strength to save us. We have no right to ask this. We know what we did to you was wrong, but innocent people are dying. Children who never voted against you are burning in their homes. If you have any mercy, any compassion, please help us. She ended the transmission and encrypted it with codes she knew humanity still had. Then she sent it toward the Sol system, toward the species they had betrayed. The message traveled through space at the speed of light. It passed through the defensive perimeter that made the Sol system invisible to outside scans. It reached the satellites that monitored all incoming communications. And finally, it reached Admiral's desk. She sat in her office, alone, and watched the message 3 times. Each time, she saw the genuine fear and regret in Ambassador's voice. Each time, she thought about the billions of innocent people dying in the galaxy. Each time, she also remembered the day humanity was cast out, the humiliation, the pain of watching families evacuate their homes, the children crying as they left the only worlds they had ever known. The Council had thrown them away, called them dangerous, made them leave everything behind. Now those same people wanted humanity to save them. Sat in her office for a long time thinking. The decision she made would change everything, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. She opened a communication channel to Earth's government, to the Sol System Defense Committee, to all of humanity's leadership. We need to talk, she said simply. The galaxy needs us again. Council chamber on Earth had never been so loud. Representatives from every human settlement in the Sol system filled the massive room. Mars, Europa, Titan, the asteroid colonies, the orbital stations. Everyone was shouting at once. They threw us out like garbage. Governor's voice rose above the chaos. They called us monsters. They made our children cry as we abandoned our homes, and now they want us to die saving them. Half the room erupted in agreement. Fists slammed on tables. Voices shouted their anger. Admiral stood at the front of the chamber, waiting for the noise to die down. Beside her, a holographic display showed Ambassador's message on repeat. The plea played silently while humans argued about whether to answer it. We owe them nothing, declared a representative from the Titan colonies. Let them burn. They deserve it for what they did to us. What about the innocent people? Dr. Minu spoke up from his seat. The children who never voted against us, the people who didn't want us exiled. Do they deserve to die? That's not our problem, shot back. We have to think about our own people first. Why should we risk human lives for aliens who hate us? The argument continued for hours. Some wanted revenge through inaction. Let the council face the consequences of their choices. Others argued that humanity had a moral duty to help people in danger, regardless of past wrongs. Engineer Yang stood and raised his hand for quiet. The room gradually settled. "I want to show you something," he said, activating a display. Data scrolled across screens throughout the chamber. "This is everything we know about their tactics, their technology, their goals." The room watched as the display showed the path of destruction through Council space. World after world reduced to lifeless rocks. "They're not stopping," Yang continued. "They don't want territory or resources. They want to eliminate everyone. And once they finish with the Council, they'll keep coming. Eventually, they'll reach us." The room fell silent as his words sank in. "So this isn't about helping the Council," Yang said quietly. "This is about survival. We can fight them now with whatever allies we can get, or we can fight them later alone." Governor stood again. "Then we should let thee and the Council destroy each other. When they're both weak, we'll be safe." "That's not how it works," Captain One said, entering the chamber. He had just returned from his reconnaissance mission. "I've watched the fight. They're not like the Council. They're efficient, brutal, and they learn from every battle. If they defeat the Council's fleets, they'll absorb that knowledge and become even stronger." He brought up tactical displays showing battle patterns. "Every day the Council fights them. They get smarter. If we wait until the Council falls, we'll face an enemy that has spent years learning how to defeat galactic warfare, and we'll face them alone." Commander added, "Our stealth technology can hide the Sol system for now, but if they control the entire galaxy, they'll have centuries to search for us. They'll find us eventually." The argument started again, but with less certainty. The cold logic of survival was harder to argue against than the warm satisfaction of revenge. Admiral finally spoke, her voice cutting through the debate. "I understand the anger. I feel it too. The Council judged us unfairly. They cast us out when we offered them friendship and protection. They deserve to face the consequences." She paused, looking around the room at faces both young and old. "But this decision isn't about what they deserve. It's about what we choose to be. Are we the monsters they feared, or are we better than that?" Governor shook her head. "This isn't about being monsters or heroes, Admiral. It's about survival." "Exactly," agreed. "And we survive better with allies than alone. The Council made a mistake. We can make them pay for it by letting them die, or we can make them pay for it by forcing them to acknowledge they were wrong about us." She activated another display, showing the Council's weakened state alongside humanity's advanced capabilities. "If we help them now, we do it from a position of strength. We set the terms. They accept human leadership or they die. They admit they were wrong or they die. They treat us as equals or they die. We hold all the cards." Dr. Minu nodded slowly. "Revenge through success instead of through abandonment. Make them live with the knowledge that they needed us all along." "But humans will die," said softly. "If we fight this war, we'll lose people. Can you promise their families it was worth it?" "No," admitted. "I can't promise that. War always costs lives. But I can promise that if we do nothing, eventually they will come here. And then the deaths will be not in distant space, but in our homes, among our families." The chamber fell quiet. It was a choice between two terrible options: fight now and lose some lives, or hide and risk losing everything later. A young voice spoke up from the back of the chamber. "I think we should help them." Everyone turned to look. Admiral's daughter stood in her cadet uniform. She wasn't old enough to be a voting member of the Council, but as daughter, she had the right to attend. "With respect, Cadet, you don't have a vote here," said one of the senior representatives. "I know," replied calmly, "but you're deciding the future my generation will inherit. We're the ones who will live with your choice." Gestured for her daughter to continue. I was 13 when we were exiled, said. I remember the alien friends I had to leave behind. I remember how much it hurt. But I also learned something in the past 15 years. She walked toward the front of the chamber. The council was afraid of us because they didn't understand us. They saw our strength and thought it meant we wanted to hurt people. They never understood that strength can be used to protect. She looked around at the assembled representatives. If we abandon the galaxy now, we prove they were right to fear us. We prove we're exactly what they thought, dangerous and selfish. But if we help them, we prove they were wrong. We show them that human strength was always meant to protect, not destroy. Pretty speech, said, not unkindly. But speeches don't bring dead soldiers back to their families. No, agreed. But living in fear isn't living. My generation grew up learning to fear the galaxy. We were taught that aliens betrayed us, that we can't trust anyone. Is that the lesson you want to pass on? Fear and isolation. She turned to face Admiral, her mother. You always taught me that humans are survivors. We survive by being smarter, tougher, and more adaptable than anyone expects. Running and hiding isn't survival. It's just waiting to die. Felt pride swell in her chest. Her daughter had grown into a remarkable young woman. The council chamber remained quiet as representatives considered words. Finally, one by one, they began to vote. The vote was close. Nearly half wanted to refuse the council's plea, but in the end the decision was made. Humanity would intervene. But there would be conditions. Admiral composed the response message herself. She wanted to make sure the council understood exactly what they were agreeing to. Ambassador, this is Admiral of the Earth Defense Fleet. We have received your message. She paused, choosing her words carefully. 15 years ago, the Galactic Council declared humanity too dangerous to remain in your society. You feared our strength, our unpredictability, our willingness to use force. You cast us out and forced us to leave homes we built with our own hands. Her voice grew harder. Now you face an enemy you cannot defeat, and you come asking for our help. You want us to risk human lives to save the species that betrayed us. You want the very strength you feared to become your salvation. Another pause. We will help you, not because we forgive you, not because we've forgotten what you did. We will help because innocent people are dying, and because humans do not abandon people in need, even when those people abandoned us first. She leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. But understand this, we help on our terms. Human forces will operate under human command. Our tactics will not be questioned or limited by council protocols. When this war is over, humanity will be restored to the galactic community as full equals with a permanent council seat, not as applicants begging for acceptance. Her expression softened slightly. We are not monsters, we never were, but we are also not your servants. We are your equals. Accept these terms or face the alone. You have 12 hours to respond. The message was sent through the same encrypted channels Ambassador had used. Then humanity began preparing for war. Engineer Yang moved to full production. The shipyards around Mars, which had been building slowly for 15 years, roared to life. New warships, designed with the best human technology and innovation, began rolling out at an incredible pace. Dr. Minyu briefed military doctors on emergency medical procedures. Governor coordinated supply chains to support a war effort. Captain One began organizing the reconnaissance fleet into strike teams. An admiral stood on her command deck, looking at the fleet assembling around Earth. Hundreds of ships, each one more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Thousands of humans preparing to fight for people who had cast them out. The Council's response came in 8 hours. Ambassador appeared on the screen again. Her crystalline body seemed dimmer than before, whether from shame or relief, couldn't tell. Admiral, the Council accepts your terms, all of them, without reservation or condition. His voice shook slightly. We were wrong about humanity, wrong to exile you, wrong to fear you, wrong about everything. If you can help us survive this war, we will spend the rest of our existence trying to make amends." Nodded. "Then we have an agreement. The human expeditionary force will depart for Council space within 48 hours. Send us the coordinates of your most threatened positions. We'll start there." As the transmission ended, Commander approached. "The fleet is almost ready, Admiral. We can depart in 36 hours. Looked out at the assembled warships. Somewhere in the galaxy there were destroying worlds. The Council was losing. Billions were dying. And humanity, cast out and forgotten, was about to remind the galaxy why they had been feared in the first place. Send word to all ships," ordered. "We're going back to the stars, and this time we're going back as equals." Human expeditionary force emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 300 ships, each one carrying weapons and technology the galaxy had never seen. Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, and surveyed the battlefield ahead. They were already there, surrounding a colony world. 15 warships bombarded the planet's surface while civilian evacuation ships tried desperately to escape. Council defense forces, what little remained, tried to hold them back but were clearly losing. "Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the colony," reported the communications officer. "Over 2 million civilians still on the surface." Didn't hesitate. "Captain 1, take your strike group and engage those ships. Protect the evacuation vessels. The rest of the fleet with me. We're going to show these invaders what happens when they threaten innocent people." One grinned from his command chair aboard the Defiant. After 15 years of watching from the shadows, he was finally going to fight. "All ships follow my lead," he commanded. "Attack pattern Thunderbolt. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and keep moving." The human ships accelerated toward the fleet at speeds that shocked both the and the Council forces. Human engines, improved far beyond Council technology, allowed maneuvers that seemed impossible. They turned to face this new threat, but they were already too late. One ship split into 3 groups, attacking from different angles simultaneously. Missiles streaked through space, but these weren't the slow, predictable weapons the Council used. Human missiles dodged, weaved, and adjusted their course to avoid defensive fire. The first ship exploded before its crew understood what was happening. "Keep the pressure on," one ordered. "Don't give them time to adapt." His tactical board showed the battle in real time. They were trying to form defensive positions, but human ships were too fast. They struck from one angle, then disappeared and struck from another. It was chaos, but controlled chaos, organized unpredictability. Everything the Council had feared about human warfare was now being used to save them. On the Indomitable, Admiral coordinated the larger battle. Her fleet moved to intercept reinforcements jumping into the system. "Launch drone swarms," she ordered. Thousands of small automated drones erupted from the human ships. Each one carried a plasma charge and guided itself toward vessels. They tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Explosions blossomed across shields. "Kinetic bombardment ready," reported her weapons officer. "Fire." Magnetic rail guns launched solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. When they hit shields, the impacts drained power rapidly. They had never faced weapons that relied on simple kinetic force rather than energy beams. A battleship tried to retreat, but found its path blocked by human ships that had somehow gotten behind it. It turned to face them, but 3 human vessels hit it from different sides at once. The shields failed and the ship broke apart. In the colony below, civilians watched in amazement. They who had seemed unstoppable were being driven back. Ships they had feared were exploding in space. And it was the humans, the species the Council had cast out, who were saving them. "All civilian ships, this is Captain 1 of the Human Defense Fleet. You're clear to evacuate. We'll cover you." The evacuation vessels lifted off from the planet, filled with refugees. Human fighters escorted them through the battle, destroying any ship that tried to pursue. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 12 ships were destroyed and the remaining 3 retreated. Not a single human ship was lost. The colony was saved. As the human fleet regrouped, Admiral received a transmission from the colony governor, unnamed. Admiral, I don't have words. You saved us. After what we did to your people, you still came to save us. His expression was neutral. We didn't come for gratitude, Governor. We came because people needed help. That's what humans do. The news of the human victory spread through Council space like wildfire. Humanity was back, and they were winning battles the Council could not. But the war was far from over. Over the following months, human forces fought battle after battle against the. Each fight showcased human innovation and adaptability. Young officer, who had argued for intervention, proved to be a brilliant tactical mind. She led boarding teams that infiltrated ships, gathering intelligence and sabotaging their systems from within. They rely heavily on centralized command, she reported to Admiral after one mission. If we can take out their command ships, the rest become confused. Then that's what we'll do, replied. Human strategy adapted constantly. When they learned to counter drone swarms, humans switched to different tactics. When they adjusted their shields, humans found new ways to break them. The unpredictability that the Council had feared became the galaxy's salvation. Dr. Minu contributed from his research station. He studied biology from recovered samples and found weaknesses in their physical structure. They're susceptible to certain sound frequencies, he reported. We can create weapons that disrupt their neural systems. Engineer Yang turned that discovery into sonic weapons that made soldiers unable to coordinate. Combined with human tactical flexibility, these weapons proved devastating. Governor, despite her initial opposition to the war, proved invaluable at managing logistics. She coordinated supply lines across hundreds of systems, ensuring human forces always had what they needed. She also organized humanitarian aid for Council refugees, proving that humanity could be both warriors and caretakers. The Council watched in amazement as humans did things they had never imagined. Human soldiers fought with a ferocity the Council couldn't match, but also showed mercy to prisoners, trying to understand their enemy rather than just destroy them. This is who they always were, Ambassador told the Council Assembly. We saw their strength and assumed violence. We never looked deeper to see the compassion beneath it. Counselor nodded. The humans are teaching us what it means to be true warriors, not monsters who love violence but protectors who accept its necessity. As humanity's successes mounted, other things changed too. Council species that had been fighting amongst themselves before the war now cooperated, coordinated by human officers who didn't care about old political disputes. The galaxy was learning to work together, forced by necessity and guided by human example. Trade routes reopened under human protection. Colonies were rebuilt with human assistance. Even old enemies began to reconcile, seeing how humans had set aside their own justified anger to help. But they were not defeated yet. As they lost ground, they became more desperate and more dangerous. They are gathering their forces, Captain One reported. Every ship they have left is moving toward the Council's capital system. They're going to make one massive attack. Admiral studied the tactical projections. If they destroyed the capital, the Council would collapse. Everything humanity had fought for would be lost. Then we end this, she said. One final battle, gather the entire fleet. The human fleet assembled along with what remained of the Council's forces. It was the largest gathering of ships the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of vessels from dozens of species, all coordinated by human command. They arrived like a dark wave. Their remaining fleet, hundreds of ships, emerged from faster-than-light travel with their weapons already firing. All ships, this is Admiral, today we end this war. Today we show thee and the entire galaxy that working together, nothing can defeat us. For our homes, for our future, attack. The battle that followed would be studied for generations. Human tactics combined with Council strengths created a fighting force unlike anything before. Ships with their advanced shields protected human attack vessels. Ships with their precise targeting supported human strike teams. Vessels with their powerful sensors guided human stealth ships to vulnerable targets. Engineer Yang had saved his most powerful weapon for this moment. The experimental pulse cannon, mounted on the Indomitable, could disable multiple ships at once. When gave the order to fire, the weapon released a wave of energy that shut down shields across a wide area. Now all forces attack the exposed ships, commanded. The combined fleet surged forward. Ships, suddenly vulnerable, found themselves overwhelmed, but they fought back with desperate fury. Captain One led a daring assault on the command dreadnought, the massive ship that coordinated their entire fleet. His boarding team, including Young, fought their way through the ship's corridors. The command center is ahead, reported, checking her tactical scanner. Heavy resistance. When has that ever stopped us? One replied with a grim smile. They breached the command center in a storm of weapons fire. The commanders fought to the last, but human training and equipment proved superior. Personally shut down the command systems, severing the fleet's coordination. In space, the effect was immediate. Ships suddenly stopped working together. Their formation broke apart. Individual ships tried to fight, but without coordination, they were picked off one by one. The battle raged for 18 hours. When it finally ended, the fleet was destroyed. Some ships escaped, fleeing back to their territory beyond the galactic rim, but their invasion was broken. The galaxy was saved. Human ships searched for survivors among the wreckage, rescuing both Council and crew members. Even after everything, humans showed mercy to their defeated enemies. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council convened for the first time since the war began. The chamber, damaged by attacks, had been hastily repaired. Representatives from every Council species gathered, along with one new member. Admiral stood in the center of the chamber, representing humanity. She no longer stood in the observation gallery as one had 15 years ago. She stood as an equal. The Council speaker, a new one since the previous speaker had died in the war, addressed the assembly. Today, we gather to acknowledge a debt that can never be fully repaid. Humanity saved us, not because we deserved it, but because they chose to be better than we were. The speaker turned to Admiral. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for humanity's exile. It was born of fear and ignorance. We saw your strength and failed to see your heart. We judged you for your capacity for violence and ignored your capacity for mercy. Ambassador stepped forward, her crystalline body bright with emotion. We cast you out, calling you too dangerous, but you were never the danger. You were the shield we needed and were too foolish to appreciate. Can you forgive us? Looked around the chamber at faces from dozens of species. Some she recognized from before the exile. Others were new, representatives from species who had gained their seats during the war. Forgiveness isn't simple, said honestly. What you did hurt us deeply. You made us question whether we belonged anywhere beyond our own solar system. But she paused, thinking of and her generation. But we learned something during our exile. We learned that being human isn't about where we are or who accepts us. It's about who we choose to be. We chose to be protectors, even when protecting meant helping those who hurt us. She looked directly at Ambassador. The Council was wrong about us, but we were also wrong to let your fear define us. We are not monsters. We are not angels. We are humans. Flawed, stubborn, sometimes violent, but always striving to be better. The chamber was silent. So yes, continued, humanity forgives the Council, Not because you've earned it, but because holding onto anger serves no one. We move forward together as equals, or we risk repeating the same mistakes." The chamber erupted in relief and gratitude. The formal vote was taken immediately. Humanity was restored to the council with a permanent seat. More than that, human officers were asked to train council military forces. Human engineers were invited to share their technology. Human doctors were requested to help rebuild medical systems. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Months later, Captain One stood on the observation deck of a station orbiting New Sol. The colony that humanity had been forced to evacuate 15 years ago was being rebuilt. Humans were returning to their homes, but this time they came as honored members of the galactic community. Beside him stood Lieutenant Bora. "It's strange being back," she said, "after so long." "It is," one agreed. "But it's different now. Before, we were here on the galaxy's terms. Now we're here on our own terms." In her office on Earth, Admiral reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Human ships protected trade routes. Human doctors treated patients on 100 worlds. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed colonies. Her daughter, now a full lieutenant, led training programs teaching Council forces human tactics. The next generation of warriors would be better prepared for threats, trained by humans who had learned the hard way. Governor oversaw the expansion of New Pyongyang on Mars, which had become a model for how to build sustainable colonies. Other species came to study human methods and adapt them to their own needs. Dr. Minyu worked with alien scientists, sharing knowledge freely. The medical breakthroughs from their cooperation saved countless lives. Engineer Yang led joint research programs, developing new technologies that combined the best of human innovation with alien knowledge. The galaxy was healing, stronger for its trials. Ambassador visited Earth for the first time, invited by Admiral. Standing on the surface of humanities, looking up at the stars, she felt overwhelming gratitude. "You could have let us die," she said too. "You would have been justified." "Perhaps," replied, "but being justified and being right are not always the same thing. We chose to be right." His crystalline body shimmered with emotion. "The galaxy will never forget what humanity did. You saved us all." Smiled, "We didn't save you alone. We fought together. That's the real lesson here. Together, we're stronger than anything that threatens us." High above Earth, human warships patrolled alongside council vessels. Crews from different species worked side by side, no longer separated by fear or prejudice. They were gone, driven back to their territory with a warning. The galaxy was united now, and any future invasion would face the combined might of species working together. And at the center of that unity stood humanity, no longer cast out, no longer feared, but respected as equals and valued as protectors. Captain One had made a promise 15 years ago when humanity was exiled. He had promised that someday the galaxy would regret casting them out. He had been right, but the galaxy's regret had led to redemption. Humanity had been cast out as monsters and returned as heroes, not because they changed, but because the galaxy finally understood who they had always been. In the end, humanity proved the most important truth. Strength without compassion is tyranny, but compassion without strength cannot protect anyone. Humanity had both, and in having both, they saved not just themselves but everyone. The stars that had once rejected them now welcomed them home. And humanity, having learned the cost of exile, would make sure no species ever felt that pain again. The galaxy had cast humans out. Now they begged for their return. And humanity, in their greatest act of strength, had chosen mercy over revenge. That choice changed everything.